everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to this episode of Getting Unstuck.
Getting Unstuck is a conversational series that the founders of the Weeds Match launched to open and deepen dialogue between Black women entrepreneurs and investors.
This is a conversational space of truth-telling about where investors and entrepreneurs get unstuck
when it comes to scaling Black women businesses.
Black women are high-performing, badass
business innovators who are not reaching revenue potential in the marketplace because of underinvestment
and limited places to get trusted advice about what to do to scale.
Our role at the Weeds Match is to create an online and offline community that is 100% dedicated to the business growth and personal well-being of Black women entrepreneurs. Full stop.
Full stop.
Full stop.
Through this Getting Unstuck series, we aim to have some real talk
that leads to more investments and revenues.
In fact, make sure you check out our Ignite pledge.
That is completely about activating unrealized annual revenue growth in Black women businesses. With that said, let's get started.
Hello. Welcome to this episode of Getting Unstuck. So, ladies, I'm going to let you introduce each of your names just in case people don't know who you are and all of your brilliance.
Well, I'll start. I am Lisa Yancey. I am one of the co-founders of the Weeds Match.
I'm Lynnette Cade. I'm also a co-founder of the Weeds Match.
But today's series is about power and agency. And I think this is a perfect time for us to really talk about power and agency and what it means to each of us. So I was thinking the other day, when was the first time I remember the very first moment I felt power and or agency? And what was that like? And so for me, around the third or fourth grade, it was during a break or lunchtime break. And our principal kept announcing over the intercom for about a week or so about how he wanted for all of us to say please and thank you. And it was a kind of ongoing kind of monotony. And I remember thinking, my mama taught me how to say please and thank you. Like, what is this about? There's something about this that felt off. And so, during the break, I was standing in line to get an ice cream sandwich, and I was standing there talking to my girlfriends, and one of the teachers, lunch monitors, told me to go sit down. And in my head, I heard the principal say, please and thank you. And I turned to her and I said, say please. But it felt so important because she was consistently talking to me and talking at me as if though I was somebody who didn't also deserve to be thanked and asked nicely to sit down. So I'll never forget that moment. And I turned to my girlfriend and she stood with me because I think she saw me falter in my face, and she stood with me, and that both power and agency aligned. And the teacher was pissed and made us sit down and called the principal. And I remember thinking, oh shit, I am in trouble now. And I went to the principal's office and he just asked, like, what were you thinking? What were you doing? And I said, you kept telling us to say please and thank you. Shouldn't the teachers have to also say please and thank you? He let me out. He didn't call my mama. He never again announced over the intercom for us to say please and thank you. So that was my moment. What about y'all? What was your moment?
There are two moments, but my honest first moment of power and agency. So let me just say how I understand power. And for me, power is the ability to move something or whatever it is. Like it catalyzes, it moves. An agency is voice, and to dare to be my full self in that space. And I would say my first known, and I didn't know I was having power. Like I didn't have that framing because I was a little girl. And my family, and particularly my mom, can attest to this. And I realized that where I first actualized my power and agency was when I would throw these tantrums. I got a Black woman mother who I learned not to be doing that soon. But I remember that I realized and I learned that if I screamed or yelled or cried, I'd get attention. Like I would get something. People would do something. This voice would cause something. This voice yelling and screaming and expressing discontent in that little body. And I would actually fall out on the floor backwards, hit my head, and just lose my mind as I heard. And it's coming up for me now, particularly in this moment where we are rising up, where there are protests and people are speaking with their voice. People are actualizing power in their bodies. And so that's the first time that I recall thinking now where I actualized my power and agency. But I think the first time where I knew it, because I didn't know it then, I kind of knew it. I knew it, but I didn't know it. Didn't have any rhetorical analysis like now. But when I did know it, I was on a basketball team, and it was in high school, and our coach used to always call us girls. And he would reference us. It was a all-female basketball team, and he would use language that was gender characterizing, and you girls would do this, you girls would do that, you girls would do that. And I remember one time saying, first of all, you need to stop infantiling us in front of everyone. And I don't know what made me say it, other than my annoyance, and I didn't care what happened. Okay, the repercussions didn't matter because what felt like he was belittling us was more important to speak out. And I think that's the time I remember. I didn't get kicked off. I mean, we did have an exchange, but he stopped calling us girls.
I'm trying to think about it because it looked slightly different for me. And then when I thought about it, it was like, oh, because it's my personality. In high school, I remember, well, before that, things like, as my mother was dying, we had to go live with my aunt in Texas on a military base. And I would, back then you'd have to get up and do the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. And I wouldn't do it. And it wasn't because I just didn't understand why to do it. And so I remember that being the first times that I was sort of figuring out, I couldn't understand why everybody just did something just because you're told to do it and not understand why. So I was working my way through those kind of things when I was young. I remember in high school, my principal, I always had these strange relationships with my principals. But this particular principal was a white woman. We went to a pretty predominantly white school, less than 20% Black in high school. And she would stand next to me in our commons. And one day she said, Lynnette, I don't understand why all the Black kids sit together. I wanted this commons to be, she was having her whole emotion around it. I wanted this commons to be for everybody to. And so I said to her, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get dressed, to get on a bus, to ride around the neighborhood, to pick up people for an hour and something, to be at school, to be at a bus stop at 7, ride around for an hour and something, to be at school by 8:30 for the bell. We spend roughly 2 to 3 hours, if not longer, in the morning, just together. And you want to solve racial issues? And 1 hour at lunch with people we don't really even get to sit around and know. And she said, well, what can we do? I said, I don't know. What can you do? She said, well, how about we start a racial, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was basically to bring everybody together to talk about their racial discomforts. But so it was the first time I was getting to see myself in a position where people come to me. So much like in present day, what's happening around us. I got a lot of phone calls from all over the country, and I realize it's always, Lynnette, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And I think that's where I'm starting to see a pattern of where my power and agency shows up to take those questions, also reverse them, because it's really, what are you gonna do? How do you show up in your own power and agency to voice, change, move, any and everything? I think that kind of answers it.
It did not kind of, it absolutely answered. It's interesting. We are in this moment right now that is both COVID-19 and a moment of extreme frustration and anger around George Floyd, around really standing, and not just George Floyd. This is really about kind of enough is enough. We need to stand, be heard, address the issues of police brutality, address so many gaps and so many issues that have plagued particularly Black and Brown people and Indigenous people here in the US. And folks are starting to say no more. Now, we've been here before. I'm hoping we're not going to be here again, but maybe we will be here again. What does that mean right now for you all to think about this moment in time? Think about how will we begin to use our power and agency where we are? It's reminding me again of Toni Morrison when she said, in the 60s, that she herself didn't see, it didn't make sense for her to be in the street, but that she could use her power in a way where she was to help move the movement. And so what, Toni Morrison did was really, as an editor, allow and provide voice for so many folks like Angela Davis and so many other folks who didn't even think of themselves. I mean, if you see this documentary and you hear from Angela Davis, who didn't even think of themselves in that moment, I'm young, what am I doing writing an autobiography? Who wants to hear from me? But that idea of both using our power where we are and our agency to change things, what does that look like for you all?
It makes me think about, I instantly called Lisa and I said, well, what does this mean for the Weaves match? And as we talked through the be ready so we don't have to get ready, and it made it very clear for me in a way that it had not in the 3 years we've been building the Weaves match, that we've been getting ready, right? So that we're ready for these moments. The work and where we are is empowering a whole side of Black people, Black women, entrepreneurs, to do the thing we need to do, which is create wealth in our community, educate, strategize, organize, create wealth, and be building something towards what we needed to look like. We are actively being the we that builds the world we want to see. And it sort of, it hit me in a way that I hadn't felt that boulder like that. That the work started to, and I don't want to say start to simplify, but I say this often: when something lives in your body, right? When it's living in your body, it's like the tree planted by the water. It cannot be moved. When you know that you know that you know that you know, nobody can take that away from you. The thing the Weeze has been building is very much timely, right? It was yesterday, it is right now, and it is for the future. And I think it very much speaks to this moment, which is have to be actively building it, right? We have to actively be in our power now. This can't be, I listened to Sam Cooke, and I was listening to Bob Marley all weekend, and Fela, and we 30 years singing the same songs.
Mm-hmm.
So we got all of the information. It is time to actively be in our agency and moving and building the world.
Mm-hmm.
We are building the world. So we are taking out and tearing down bricks of one structure and system, and we are building the world we need to see.
So, first, what I want to bring in Breonna Taylor. I want to bring in Ahmaud Arbery. I want to bring in George Floyd. I want to bring in many Black men and women in which when we're talking about this moment here, we're talking about a moment where protests are happening all over the nation, where the building upon the egregious, malicious, persistent murders have taken a toll and has catalyzed that same voice, scream, fallout that I referenced earlier of agency. And I think about what the Weeze Match role is and has been, and what even inspired us to do this work. I think about this commitment, our commitment to systems change, to the impact. And a friend of mine, Farai Chadea, who's a journalist, author, amazing Black woman, currently program officer at the Ford Foundation. I wrote an article in the Washington Post towards the end of last week about her experience living in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and seeing and experiencing disparities, and then moving during this period of COVID-19 to the Hudson Valley. And there's a line in her article that I want to pull in to this conversation, because when I read it, it made me think about what we're doing with the Weeze Match in it. And it says, wealth inequality and its relationship to race will kill us all if we do not face it head on. What it makes me think about, that statement felt like it encapsulated what we are doing with the Weeze Match. By first, in terms of power and agency, we've activated both our power and our agency as Black women to focus on Black women entrepreneurs, and to focus exclusively on Black women entrepreneurs, without feeling that we needed to make excuses for why we're not focusing on all women, or why we're not focusing on all women of color, or why we're not focusing on all Black people. We tapped into our agency and saying that we as Black women entrepreneurs need 100% dedication to shift the trend of inequities and inequalities around wealth. We are challenging and changing this idea of terms. We are activating individuals to first commit, investors to commit. That's the first thing. Commit to investing in Black women entrepreneurs. And then in committing to investing in Black women entrepreneurs, let's also undo and unlearn what we've learned around what it means to invest and have terms that are only connected to what the financial yield is. We're saying, let's +1 that. We can talk about what the financial yield is because we know that these women are brilliant. They are smart innovators. They're smart business people. They and we, because I am one of we are one of we. We just need the opportunities that are afforded any entrepreneur to be able to thrive and the resources to be able to thrive. So start with the commitment in investing in these entrepreneurs, and then work with us to redefine what terms mean that get to the desired impact, the desired change, not just the desired revenue return. So that's one thing we're doing. We are holding steady that our purpose is to change, to create an environmental change as a result of what these investments do by focusing on the woman, her business thrive, and her business thrive and communities thrive. The second thing that we're doing as a company, I believe, is that we're documenting and sharing it. We are acknowledging and bringing voice to that we have to unlearn, and that we are enough to activate the change that we desire. We don't have to beg, plead, and request the existing ecosystem that was never designed for us to thrive to include us at their table. We can design and raise tables with these values, with the legs and anchors of these values of us thriving, and we're sharing that. Another thing that we are doing is that we're building, we are recruiting more investors who are aligned with these values, who understand what Black women entrepreneurs can do, will do, and what that means not only for our economy, but what it means for our society, what it means for the future, what it means 2 generations from now, certainly 2, if not 7 generations from now, from the work that we're doing today. That's why I like to think about when we talk about moments, that this is a sequence. This is a moment that's in a sequence of moments that will come into place towards the desired long-term change. The other thing that we're doing is prioritizing relationship building, because we know that if we remain without knowing each other and understanding each other and getting to know each other, then we can never unlearn the prejudices, the biases, the microaggressions that this society has taught us all. No one's exempt. And until we do the work to build the tools, to build to take in the lessons, to unlearn, to invest in something towards the change, and not just invest in something towards the benefit, the personal benefit. It's the both and, because the personal benefit, the financial benefit, and the societal benefit can be a yield. The Weeds Match is building that as well. And I think that that's the work that we're doing. And the last thing I'll say as an auntie, I'm not a mother, but I'm an auntie. And one of the things that I'm doing in my power and agency is speaking clearly to my nieces and nephews. Particularly, I had a conversation with my nephew this weekend, asking him, when you look back at this moment, what will you be able to say that you did to stand up? What has been your role? How have you activated your voice and mobilized yourself in this on the things that you care about? And that's the work.
So you've covered both power, agency, and systems. And then you also talked and really spoke brilliantly about what the Weeds Match is trying to do as a real ecosystem change. And so as we think about those 3 components and sort of bring in I'm a mother, so I have a daughter sort of really struggling in this time. You talked about what it means to be an auntie. Lynnette, maybe you can talk about, as you think about how you, actually, you really talked about it, how people call on you to help them get unstuck. So we are playing this role to help them think about what's next. We're all playing this role of birthing something new, getting unstuck, and helping others do the same. And so, as we think about this moment and knowing that, one, we're not alone. We are never alone. We've been activating how we have collective, both individual power and collective power, because we know it takes us all. What else do we want to say in this moment, at this time, to, as we think about our Black women entrepreneurs who are feeling much of what we're feeling and trying to get their businesses to thrive and in some cases survive. As we think about the investors, some of the ones that we're in touch with who are completely committed to Black women entrepreneurs and ready to do more, and those who aren't yet, have not yet even thought about, why they should invest in Black women entrepreneurs. When we think about, these are our communities that we're trying to hold and not nurture, hold and nurture and activate our power that allows the power and strength and success of Black women who hold their own agency and are committed to making a difference in the world. Yeah. What else might we say to them?
You know what I'll say? I'll say to them what I say to me, because I am them. We are one of we, that's one of our mantras, is that, let's not believe narratives and believe narratives that continue to pigeonhole, isolate, exceptionalize our work, because we know we are one of many, and our brilliance has run as deep as the River Nile. I would say to me that continue to stay fast, because change is coming. It is now, and the work that we're doing is a culture shift. We're not here to accelerate you. We're not here to incubate you. We are here to be architects that hold us at the center, and the values of what we do produce and can continue to produce at the center for culture change. Because that culture change will have intersectional implications. And we know that when we do this work, that this work ripples out to many communities, many lives, and many families, because Black women ripple out to many communities, many lives, and many families. I was at 11, I didn't know it was 11:26 because a colleague and dear friend, another Black woman, and I were on doing some work, and she texted me and said, it's 11, here it is again, Black women behind the scene doing the work for communications on our institutions, doing the work to say, no, that's not enough, doing the work that's saying, if you don't stand up in this way, you might as well just sit on down and say that you're complicit, doing the work in the shadows, right? Mm-hmm. Invisible. And what I said to her, I was like, but this is the way, one, we are not in our shadows, and these shadows are no more. We are outside the shadows, that we are claiming and owning that we are the architects and engineers around the ideas, that's designing the movements and protests that are happening. And this is how we ignite flames, and we continue to hold each other through the night, through the day, and in the future. And so I think I would just say, we are here, we are strong, we are powerful, and we are doing this. These inequities, this fatigue, this perpetual fatigue that our ancestors had to bear for us to be where we are right now, I say no more. I say we do this work, we change this system, and we invite those who are going to hold those values for that change and produce bountifully, because that's what we do.
I think I would only add to that, because what I said to myself, I like the way you did that, because what I said to myself is, in this moment, it's as all the statistics have shown around Black women entrepreneurs and the work that we have been doing and the strides we have been making, this moment said to me, go all in. Go all in. If we've seen very clearly that there is nothing left to fear. Not one thing, because You can be getting a bag of Skittles and a soda, and you could just want to buy a cigarette, and right, and sort of that narrative is starting to sound like the same ending. So we're at a place where the fear part, there's nothing to fear. And so I only say, because we know that the work has been happening in the shadows, in the front, in the middle ground, in the pulpits, in the streets, around the corner, in the barbershops and the beauty salons. The work has been working. So now I just think there's a place where we say, I'm all in. I mean, that's what I tell myself. Shit, ain't nothing else to fear.
Yeah. In a Nina Simone kind of way, right?
Huh?
In a Nina Simone kind of way, right?
Yeah.
That is
No.
liberation. Is no fear. That's
Yeah.
the freedom. Is no fear.
We got zero to lose. We are standing at the I don't know what you call it, the crossroad, the
Precipice.
yeah, we right there at the moment where it's like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Forward. And this difference, I love the conversation between Nikki Giovanni and Baldwin that's been circulating again over the years. But and I like the way she defined what was happening for them as a moral issue in their time versus what it's all still happening, but the way we look at it in our time. And now we have to say how we see it in our time, right? Because strange times, but the same times, right? And so it really is. I'm all in, and I've never felt so fearless in my life to build a world that I want to see, and I don't have to apologize. And kind of even what I loved about the documentary you brought up with Toni Morrison is, as much as she understood the power of words, when it became clear to her what the power of words does, she didn't have to say, I'm unapologetically Black. She just was that.
That's making me think of the so this organization, Girl Trek. I'm happily on their email list, and they're starting this boot camp. And today is the first day of the boot camp, and they sent the last kind of open blast email. And in that email, they pulled up a manifesto by Shirley Chisholm on activism, and it was the quote where she says, I want history to remember me not as the first Black woman to have made a bid for the presidency of the United States, but as a Black woman who lived in the 20th century and who dared to be herself. I want to be remembered as a catalyst for change in America. And I'm like, yes, that's it. There's no more time. There's no more room. There's no more room for anything that's not advancing this agenda, that's not advancing this work, because the fruit of this work, the fruit that will come from this labor will benefit all.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop. I say yes. This has been such a wonderful, powerful conversation. You all inspire me every day. I'm so blessed to get to work with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm glad we are together in this, trying to make change. Not trying, making change. Yeah. We are fearless. We invite all of you who are witnessing and watching this to also be fearless. Yeah. Please, please, please. This is all about getting unstuck. And right now, while it looks like we are a bit stuck, we're working to be unstuck. Right. And that's what this moment is. So please join us, continue to join us in this conversation. You can go to our website, theweezematch.com. On the website, share, tell us what you're doing, tell us what you're up to, tell us what you need and what you're engaging with to thrive.
And the only thing I would add to Jim, besides saying, I love you, Lynnette. I love who we are and what we're doing. I love Black women. I love you, Black women, who continue to just be the anchors. Only thing I would add to us is that we are being transparent about our journey. So when you go to our site, as we're building this, we're not just building it without you. We're asking you to be with us and sharing where you are and share information and build a relationship with us, because together we're going to build this alternate universe. We're not going to build it just by ourselves, because that will falter. That African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go farther, go together. We're doing this together. So we will ask you to share information, and we also promise you that we will never ask you something without giving something back. Because we know the burdens of Black women of being asked all the time to give something without being able to get something back in exchange as a value of that information, as a value of that network, of that brilliance of your resilience. And so we are holding that because, again, we are you. And so you'll find us very clear in our journey, but we are building, and we are building together, and we invite you to join us in that journey.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
And you're welcome.